Have you ever wondered why the doctor says you're completely healthy, yet you still feel exhausted, drained, like your mind is wrapped in a thick fog? Maybe it's not a disease. Maybe it's karma speaking through your body. Have you ever paused to ask why some people live kindly, eat clean, exercise regularly, yet still suffer chronic pain for years? While others, despite going through hardship, seem to glow with life and light. The answer doesn't always lie in a medical report. It lies deeper in the layers of karma, where the body becomes the most honest mirror of the soul. And maybe you've noticed this too. Every time you're stressed, your stomach tightens, your throat closes up, your sleep becomes restless. You think it's just stress, but maybe each organ in your body is whispering a spiritual message, not to scare you, but to gently invite you back to yourself, back to the inner space where healing truly begins. Because the body isn't just skin and bones. It's a living scripture, and every ache, every symptom is like a sacred line of karmic text. In today's video, we'll explore, what is your body trying to teach you? What kind of karma does each part of your body reflect? And more importantly, how do we not just treat the body, but transform the mind and see illness not as punishment, but as a lesson in compassion and awakening? Let's take this journey together, not just to decode physical pain, but to truly listen and understand ourselves more deeply than ever before. 1. Every symptom is a doorway, not a punishment. There's something many people feel, but don't always say out loud. That quiet fear when the body shows an unusual sign, a lingering ache, an unexplained rash, a deep fatigue that no test can explain. And then comes the anxiety. What did I do wrong? Why is this happening to me? Some even wonder, am I being punished? But in Buddhist teachings, no one is being punished. There is no invisible hand casting suffering down on people just because they deserve it. The Buddha never taught that illness is a punishment. He taught that this body is the storehouse of karma, where every thought, action, and word in this life lives before leaves a trace. So when something rises in the body, whether it's a mild headache or a serious condition, it's not here to punish. It's here to wake us up. A pain could be a bell ringing. An illness could be an invitation to turn inward, to listen, and to see the path we've walked through the eyes of awareness. There was once a woman in a meditation retreat in Oregon. She shared, "I've had back pain for 7 years. I've gone everywhere, and no one could find the cause. But during meditation, I saw it. I've been carrying a burden in my heart that I never released. It was about my youngest sibling, someone I couldn't save. I blamed myself for years. I never spoke about it. And my back, it just bent under the weight of that pain." She didn't need more treatment. She needed to understand. And that story isn't rare. Many people suffer chronic insomnia, and only when they let go of guilt do they finally sleep again. Many illnesses remain unresolved not because of lack of medicine, but because the heart hasn't asked, what inside me needs to be seen? What have I not forgiven? In Zen tradition, there's a phrase, body and mind are not two. The body reflects the mind. The mind expresses through the body. So when the heart holds wounds, regrets, or resentment, the body speaks. And when the body speaks, it's an invitation to listen, not just with ears, but with awareness. The body is not your enemy. It's not betraying you. It's simply being honest. So honest that it cannot hide anything, not unspoken anger, not a buried sorrow, not an old mistake that's never been truly repented. They show up not to condemn, but to guide. Just like a blinking warning light in your car, it's not there to scare you, but to show you something needs attention. Physical illness, in the same way, isn't a punishment. It's a message of redemption. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said, beings are the owners of their actions, heirs of their actions, born of their actions, related through their actions, and supported by their actions. Whatever actions they do, good or bad, they are the heirs of those actions. In other words, we inherit ourselves, no one else. And if this body is the keeper of karma, then each pain is a line of truth in the scripture of our life, waiting to be read with compassion. So next time your body speaks, don't rush to silence it. See it as an old friend bringing you a message you've long forgotten. Ask it, what are you trying to show me? What lesson have I missed that I might now learn more gently? And most of all, am I ready to listen not just with my ears, but with the quiet truth of my own heart? 2. The body is a living map of karma. When you look in the mirror each morning, have you ever asked yourself, is this body really just skin, muscles, blood, and bones? Or is there something deeper, quieter, hidden behind the eyes, behind that tired smile, behind muscles silently calling for help? In Buddhism, we look at the body very differently. It's not just a biological machine, and it's not just a temporary home for the mind. This body is a living map of karma, a detailed, honest, and intricate record of everything that's ever been planted through our actions, our speech, and even our thoughts, not only in this life, but in lives before. Imagine your body as a sacred scripture. Every ache, every rash, every tight knot in your stomach is a sentence, a question, a karmic memory waiting to be understood. Because karma, which is really the accumulation of habits and intentions, doesn't just live in the mind. It weaves itself quietly into the bloodstream, into your breath, into the way your shoulders rise when you're overwhelmed. There's an old saying, the body is the shape of karma, the mind is its root, which means what happens in the mind, if left unresolved, will eventually show up in the body. There was a layman who came to a monastery with chronic pain in his neck and shoulders. He was a smart man, well-spoken, successful, but after just a few days of mindfulness practice, he saw it clearly. For years, he had carried the weight of his entire family, his job, and the expectations of his parents all on his own shoulders. No one asked him to, but deep down, he believed he had to be strong, had to hold it all together. And that belief carved itself into his muscles until it became physical pain. Then there was a young woman who had chronic eczema around her wrists. She grew up with strict parents. Every time she did something wrong, they would grab her wrists and scold her. She thought she'd moved on from the past. But her body didn't forget. Her wrist still carried the memory of that trauma like a scar left by emotional karma, even if no doctor could explain the cause. Now, this doesn't mean every illness is because of bad karma. That's not the point. But through the lens of right view, a Buddhist learns not just to treat the body, but to understand it. Because this body is a living map of what has been planted, and sometimes what hasn't yet been seen, healed, or forgiven. Each area of the body may hold an untold story, an unresolved karma, a life lesson waiting to be reread with fresh eyes. In the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the Buddha said, one who knows how to observe this body with wisdom can see the past, the present, and even the future. The body is impermanent, yes, but within that impermanence, it carries the imprint of old karma, like silent waves slowly steering the ship of our lives toward lessons we didn't know we needed. And only when we pause without judgment to truly observe can we begin to realize it's no coincidence that pain shows up in that part of the body. It's no accident that your throat tightens every time you try to speak your truth. It's not just bad luck that your sleep remains restless night after night. Every stuck breath, every spot of tension, every dull ache might be a quiet comma in the sentence of karma waiting to be continued, with mindfulness, with compassion, and with deeper understanding. That's why, in meditation, the body is never ignored. We learn to listen to the body like an old friend, honest, wise, and patient. No forcing, no fixing, just being with it long enough until each part, each breath, each pain becomes a doorway into insight. And strangely enough, when we begin to see the body through the lens of compassion and understanding, it slowly begins to heal, not through magic, but through the simple, sacred law of coming home to ourselves gently and without resistance. 3. Every part of the body carries its own message. Sometimes, the body is like a lifelong companion, a close friend we've lived with forever, but rarely ever truly listened to. It usually takes a pain, a persistent illness, or an unexplained symptom for us to pause and finally ask, "What's going on with me?" But if we sit quietly and listen just a little deeper, we might begin to sense that every part of the body is trying to whisper something. Not in words, but in the language of karma, of consciousness, of things that have happened but were never truly understood. In Dharma sharing circles, there are so many stories, strange yet deeply real. A woman in her 40s, for example, developed a rash on her arms every time she visited her mother's home. She wasn't allergic to food, didn't switch cosmetics, and wasn't diagnosed with any skin condition. But like clockwork, the moment she stepped into the childhood kitchen, the space where she used to hear so much criticism, her skin reacted. And when she finally sat with it, she said something incredibly profound. "My skin feels like a fragile shield. It's trying to protect me from the pain I never dared to speak back to." She didn't carry anger, but the unspoken pain found its own way out through her skin. In Buddhism, the body is where karma takes shape, and each region of the body becomes a doorway into some forgotten memory. Some memories are ancient, the mind may not recall, but the body remembers, and the body never lies. Take the liver, for instance. Those who often carry quiet anger, tension, or unspoken inner battles tend to experience issues here. Sometimes there's a hidden fire inside, not raging, but slowly burning away at us. If that fire isn't cooled by compassion or forgiveness, it leaves ashes behind inside the liver. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping hot coal to throw at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." So in a very human sense, the liver becomes the place where the body burns when the heart can't let go of its fire. Now the kidneys, they're different. They're quiet, deep organs where our hidden fears tend to live. People who often feel unsafe, distrustful, or anxious about the unknown tend to have weak kidneys. Some souls have lived through past lives of instability, war, exile, loss of home, loss of safety. And even if life today feels calm, the old fear still lingers, like an inner survival instinct. The kidneys don't ask you to be fearless, but they do ask you to learn how to trust again. Trust the present, trust others, and trust life to hold you. Then there's the stomach, the place where we digest not just food, but emotion. So many suffer from ulcers, bloating, acid reflux, not because of poor diet, but because life itself has become indigestible. A painful event that hasn't been accepted. A harsh word swallowed but never spoken. A shock, a grief, a fear flowing backward like acid, eroding the heart from the inside out. Some people go through countless tests and treatments, and nothing works. But when they sit in meditation and hold the truth gently in their heart, their stomach begins to soften. Because the body doesn't always need fixing. It needs to be understood and seen. Now, consider the spine, the pillar of the body. It often carries invisible burdens that were never ours to hold. Those who constantly care for others, sacrifice too much, or always feel they have to be responsible often suffer back pain, spinal misalignment, or chronic tension. The spine silently says, "I'm tired, I've carried enough, I need to rest." And most of the time, the issue isn't physical weakness, but a heart that's exhausted from carrying too much emotional weight. Then there's the skin, our outer boundary with the world. It's also where many carry feelings of judgment, invasion, or not being enough. Eczema, rashes, chronic itching, inflammation often aren't allergic reactions. They're the body's way of defending itself. Some grew up being yelled at, physically punished, or controlled too tightly, and now their skin acts like a border zone, always alert, always on edge. Only when the person feels truly safe inside and out does the skin finally settle. And lastly, the eyes. They're called the windows to the soul, but they're also the mirrors of karmic illusion and judgment. Some people struggle with eye fatigue, blurred vision, or chronic discomfort not because of poor eyesight, but because they subconsciously don't want to see something. It might be truth within the family, truth in a relationship, truth in the self, or maybe it's seeing life through a distorted lens of bias, making the eyes tense and the heart heavy. Now, all of this isn't to make anyone feel guilty or afraid. Quite the opposite. It's here to remind us that the body is a friend, and every symptom is a loving message, an invitation to listen more deeply and return home to ourselves. 4. Karma isn't a punishment, it's a lesson. There's a question many people ask when something painful happens in their life, especially when illness shows up out of nowhere. What did I do wrong to deserve this? It's a natural question, but sometimes it comes from a deep belief that we're being punished by some higher power, that maybe we didn't live well enough or made some mistake in the past. Some people even carry quiet shame, thinking illness is the price they're paying for past wrongs. That suffering is a punishment for bad karma. But through the lens of the Buddha's teachings, that belief doesn't quite hold up. The Buddha never taught that people are punished. He didn't use pain as revenge, and he didn't use sickness as a warning sign. Instead, he said, beings are the owners of their karma, the heirs of their karma, born of their karma, related through karma, and supported by karma. Whatever karma they create, good or bad, they inherit it. So what does that really mean? It means karma isn't a whip. It's a mirror. Not a sentence, but a map. Karma doesn't come to hurt us for what we've done. It comes to show us what we need to learn, understand, and transform. When someone starts walking a spiritual path, they begin to see things differently. That illness, hardship, or even a string of unfortunate events may not be random at all. They might be invitations to wake up. There was once a man who suffered a stroke after years of nonstop working, emotional suppression, and living under constant pressure. He always believed he had to be strong, the rock, the provider, and never allowed himself to break. But in the moment his body gave out, he finally saw the truth. He needed to let go. He needed to learn how to love himself. He needed to stop running and start listening. And strangely enough, it was the stroke, the very thing that nearly took him down, that became his first real teacher. Without it, he might never have stopped long enough to truly return to himself. Many practitioners have faced turning points just like that. At first, we meet karma with fear, or we feel like victims. But over time, with right understanding and quiet observation, we begin to see karma doesn't have a face, but it carries deep wisdom. And that wisdom always brings us right where we need to be, at just the right moment, in just the right way, for us to learn what we're finally ready to learn. That's why, in Buddhism, we're not taught to curse hardship or get too attached to ease, because both joy and struggle are part of the same curriculum. The difference is simple. The awakened ask, "What's the lesson here?" The unaware ask, "Why is this happening to me?" And just by changing that question, the whole path ahead begins to shift. There was a middle-aged layperson who once said at a retreat in California, "Whenever I got sick before, I'd panic and think, why is the universe punishing me? But after learning the Dharma, I started asking, what is this body trying to teach me that I haven't yet understood? And strangely, I stopped feeling like a victim. I started feeling like I was being guided." That simple shift is everything. Because it's true, karma isn't here to hurt us. It's here to bring us back to what we've sown, so we can see it again with clearer eyes and grow from it. Just like a seed that hasn't yet sprouted will stay buried underground. But when the right conditions come, the light, the water, the time it breaks through the soil and reaches for the sun, karma's the same. It doesn't punish. It simply ripens at the moment we have the strength to understand, to change, and to grow stronger. And when someone starts to meet karma with a learner's mind, every experience becomes a lesson. A moment of pain becomes a moment of clarity. A loss becomes a letting go. A heartbreak becomes a return to compassion. No one escapes karma, but anyone with wisdom can walk through it. And when we do, we're no longer victims. We become the ones lighting a new path for ourselves, and maybe even for others. And in the end, the most important question is no longer, what did I do wrong? But rather, what can I do now to live better, love deeper, and walk forward with more light? 5. Shift from being a victim to becoming awake. There's something interesting about how we humans deal with pain. We often think of ourselves as victims of some outside force. A chronic illness makes us feel betrayed by our own body. A string of misfortunes makes us ask, why is life working against me? And the longer the pain lasts, the more we start to identify with it. I'm the one with the illness. I'm the unlucky one. I'm the one who always has problems. But is that really who we are? In the light of Buddha's teachings, the self we often talk about is just a temporary flow of sensations, perceptions, and thoughts. Pain, even long-term pain, is not our true identity. Illness, even serious illness, is not who we are forever. Suffering, even deep, lingering suffering, does not define the soul. Someone going through pain isn't a victim. They are a seeker, walking their spiritual path right in the middle of real life. No one comes into this world just to suffer. Each of us arrives with a journey to walk, to understand, to grow, and when the conditions are right, to awaken. There was a man, about 50 years old, who shared his story during a meditation retreat in Oregon. He had been living with sciatica pain for nearly 12 years. He said he had felt angry, hopeless, and carried the thought, life has taken away my joy. But after just a few weeks of mindful meditation and learning about karma, he said something that made the whole room go silent. I realized, I'm not the pain. I'm the one learning how to listen to it. That realization changed everything. Because the moment we stop identifying with the pain and start observing it, something beautiful begins to happen. Not that the pain disappears immediately, but we no longer let it control our lives. The mind starts to feel lighter, clearer. And when the mind transforms, karma starts to shift too. As the Buddha taught, mind is the forerunner of all things. With an impure mind, suffering follows like the cart behind the ox. But with a pure mind, happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves. The mind is the root. When the mind shifts, karma shifts. And when karma shifts, the body can finally begin to heal from the root. Many people have stepped out of chronic conditions not through medication, but through inner transformation. They stopped thinking, I need to fight this pain, and instead began to live with it as part of the present moment, but no longer letting it shape the future. It's not easy. But it's not unreachable either. Sometimes it just starts with one small thing each day. Sitting in silence with yourself for 5 minutes. Looking into your emotions instead of running away. Learning to forgive yourself for being too hard on yourself. And believing you're not just someone carrying pain. You're someone learning how to heal. Awakening doesn't mean you'll never suffer. It means that even when suffering is here, you know there's a part of you deeper than the pain. A part that listens, learns, and rises from within. And that part is where real healing begins. So if there's ever a moment when your body makes you feel tired or overwhelmed, remember this: you are not a victim of your body. You are living with your body, learning its language, so you can understand yourself more deeply than your mind has ever reached. 6. The body also carries collective karma. There's something not many people realize. Not every pain in the body comes from personal karma. Not every wound is the result of one person's past. Sometimes, what feels like your private exhaustion is actually an echo of a much larger suffering, the suffering of a whole community. There are illnesses, chronic stress, and deep fatigue that don't arise solely from inside us. They are born from the world we're living, in its psychology, its history, and the way society moves. In Buddhism, we call this collective karma. And the body, though it may seem individual, is quietly carrying a portion of that collective karma. Now, this doesn't mean denying personal karma. It means widening the lens to include more compassion. Not everyone who gets sick is bad. Not everyone who struggles is unfortunate. Sometimes, someone is ill simply because the community around them is out of balance. A child born with lung disease may not have done anything wrong. They might just be growing up in smog or a war-torn area. A young adult with depression may not be broken. They may simply be trying to stay afloat in an era of speed, comparison, and quiet isolation. Many people live with insomnia, chronic headaches, or unexplained fatigue not because they're weak, but because the world around them is too loud, too fast, too disconnected. And the body in its silence is speaking on behalf of a society that's lost its way. So while we try to heal ourselves, we must also begin to understand. Our mindfulness is a contribution to the collective. Healing is no longer just a private act. Every time someone sits down to breathe mindfully, every time someone pauses before speaking harshly, every time someone chooses a kind, simple meal, they're not just protecting themselves, they're breaking a link in the chain of collective karma. There's a story in the Buddhist sutras from the Samyutta Nikaya. A group of merchants got lost in the forest. Panic broke out. Blame flew. No one knew what to do. But one person, just one, sat down in stillness, turned inward, and lit a lamp within. That light helped others calm down, see more clearly, and eventually, the whole group found their way out. That's the power of one conscious being. One person, grounded and awake, can illuminate the path for many others. And today, in our own way, that power still holds true. When someone learns to slow down, consume less, or walk this world with gratitude, they create a gentler space around them. That's how we begin to heal collective karma. In Buddhism, this is clear. When monks gather for the rains retreat, no one practices alone. The presence of the whole Sangha living mindfully together generates a powerful shared energy. If one monk breaks a precept, the community doesn't cast them out, they support them. Why? Because personal karma is never fully separate from communal karma. When one person heals, their healing lifts the space around them. And when one person suffers alone, that suffering can ripple out to family, to society. That's why in today's world, spiritual practice is no longer just self-help. It's an act of responsibility, a quiet vow that says, I won't contribute to what's harming the world. Maybe it starts with simple things, turning off your phone a little earlier, not spreading fear-driven news, sitting quietly with a loved one when they're tired, choosing not to react in anger when you're hurt. Each of these, though small, becomes a pause in the stream of collective karma. Because deep down, your body is not just you. It's a bridge connected to everything and everyone. And when you realize that, you no longer feel small. The calm in your breath right now could be a soothing balm for a child trembling somewhere. Your mindful action today could be a light for someone still lost in confusion. So the journey of healing is no longer sealed inside your skin. It ripples out like still water spreading, gently reaching your loved ones, your community, and even the world. And so, we've walked together through a journey not just of the body, but of karma itself. From pains that seemed personal, to messages buried deep in our cells, to the shared weight our bodies carry for this world. Every sensation, every emotion is calling us home to listen, to wake up, to walk with mindfulness. True healing doesn't begin with medicine, it begins with a new way of seeing yourself. It starts when you stop asking, "Why am I suffering?" and begin asking, "What can I learn from this?" Because you are not the pain. You are not the fear. You are not a punishment. You are someone who is learning how to return, learning how to heal, and learning how to live more deeply with yourself. This body is a map. This mind is the light. And every day is a chance to walk the path of awakening with these ordinary steps in this extraordinary body. If this message touched your heart, please hit the like button, share it with someone who might need it today, and leave a comment below. Which part of your body is speaking to you right now? And don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds to keep walking this path together where every video is a step home. See you in the next Dharma Talk.